Mike check 1 2. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again by the grace of God. Official test start time 2 minutes. You guys have time to get in. Make sure we have a nice area to work with. I'm trying to think to myself before we get started. First of all, let me load up the modules because we're gonna um we're gonna explore different options. But as always, I want to give you guys some theory as we begin. Let me get Pro Tools going. So let me adjust everything so we have the best possible setup that we can have. Okay, connected. All right, so we are connected. Go ahead, turn on your simulators, put everything on engineering. Let's go on YouTube. Go Porsche 911 documentary. Um, I'm trying to think. I want to get my engineering notebook, but it's gonna break my train of thought. Then I don't want to design. I don't like to force my designs. Let me see. This is 992. The original one. Once I see it, I'll recognize it. Porsche Le Mans Racing with Giants, narrated by Patrick Dempsey. That would be a good one too. Inside the Factory. This one I like to do more in person, but because teaching design that way is more of the sculpture, for the students that get to work on the clay models. I'm working on new technology to create better composites. One of my newest investments is a carbon composite manufacturing facility. We're going to start with the Corvette and then hopefully build more parts from there. Give me one quick second so I can get everything going. So this is, give me one quick second. This is from 1948 to 1998. Give me one quick second. I'm going to just kind of let cruise in the background while we continue our open discussion. Trying to think, what else could I do on this side? I have it on Pro Tools, so this will help us control it a little bit. So we're still going to be able to dialogue. We'll be able to make it interactive, and we can talk about it as well. And Vayner Media hydration challenge is still on. Okay. Maybe this is a little bit better. Trying to adjust this. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe that's better. Thing is, I don't want to mess with the sound too much. So on the fair use, no copyright infringement intended. This is for educational purposes. So want to give a special shout out to my babies. Look, they hooked me up with the body armor. You guys can have a look right there. Strawberry banana. This is so you guys could buy your teacher a coffee. Give me one second.
Is it a myth? It is a myth, really. Porsche has a certain mystique. A legend. I don't know if the two can be the same thing.
Not really a myth. To me, the moon's a myth. The sun, a great, great story.
Or you guys can send me a coffee, okay?
Je pense que Ferrari est un mythe.
And adjust
Porsche is a
everything
myth
here.
in and of itself.
Go ahead and open up your Baja apps. We'll have a conversation in
Myth
real
is
time, okay?
probably too big a word for it.
Let's just check the markets real quick. I'll give you guys a second to start. Everybody has the link, okay?
The Volkswagen is a great car in need of more horsepower. So during the war, I added a compressor to the Volkswagen. That gave me enough horsepower that I could figure out what I'd have once I got rid of the heavy body and use a light alloy body instead. I'd have even more than I had with the compressor, and that was the first Porsche. That was in 1948. That is 50 years ago. And along with the introduction of the German mark came the economic miracle. It all began with the Berlin-Rome car that was based on the VW of 1939. My father was the chief engineer for that car. They moved to Gmund, Austria, and my father and his staff began construction in a sawmill. They just aimed at building a sporty, simple car. And that's where the first Porsche evolved. Number one with the mid-engine aluminum body hammered over wood.
Mid-engine.
The 356 was an outgrowth of this car.
356 came afterwards. It went to rear engine, but the original was mid-engine.
Technical legends come to life on the workbench.
So on the actual frame, a lot of people don't know, you can actually move the engine to the center. It's the same mounting points, everything.
Returns to Germany from Austria. The ingenious
For generations with the Boxster and above.
car with a top speed of nearly 87 miles an hour at his factory in Stuttgart. Professor Porsche and his son.
87 from the factory.
And Ferry Porsche was a business pioneer. The first Porsches, made in Germany, left the Reuter body shop in 1950. The production process itself was an adventure, but the result is one of the most beautiful cars of the day. The early Porsche 356. The front windshield is still split.
Beautiful
There was
construction.
no tachometer. This convertible was an unattainable dream for the bike-riding majority of Germans. The 500th Porsche rolls off the assembly line after 3 years. The handcrafting of the car provides employment for many. The design is still
Made 500 cars in 3 years. So 365 times 3, 900. 65 times 2 is 130. Plus 65, 195. 200.
had a great influence on the design.
900, 1100 days to make 500 cars. They were making a car every 2 days.
They've managed to keep the
That is amazing. As you all know, I own a small company. I'll be happy with fucking 24 cars in a year.
this first model is
It
unfortunate.
did 500 cars in 3 years.
Nothing is more beautiful than the first Porsche. 1951, the light metal coupe, a racing version which marked the beginning of a great passion, the 24-hour race in Le Mans. The Porsche Spider defines the trim silhouette of the racing car. 1,200 pounds and 110 horsepower. The
To be a
price
little bit better.
makes the Spider popular. The technology brings success. 1954, Le Mans. The category winner after 24 hours, Porsche.
24 hours of Le Mans.
The nice thing about it was, and this has a lot to do with the myth, that the Porsche took part in sports events as a very small car and competed against cars with twice the horsepower and won anyway.
Yep.
The other
The
car
giant
was
killer.
maneuverable and smart, but the Porsche was even better.
Porsche was better. It was lighter,
It wasn't a
smaller.
question of power. The design was simply ingenious.
The design.
I remember the Carrera Pan America in Mexico. Early in the race, something in the frame broke, but we didn't have the parts needed to fix it. We bought all the water pipes we could from the Indians in the surrounding villages.
Und wir haben ihre Wasserleitungen abgekauft. Also so idiotisch das klingt.
It sounds stupid, but our team actually rebuilt the frame out of those pipes. I had full confidence in the construction, despite everything, and we made it to the next leg. The situation is completely different here at the Great Race in Berlin, the finals of the German Car Racing Championships. The track is better, the cars are faster. The international race has become a pure German duel. The battle is between Porsche and BMW from the eastern sector. Number 15 from Frankenberg for Porsche leads lap for lap, pursued by Rosenbauer.
That's why BMWs drive just like Porsches.
Wins with an average
Most
speed of
people don't know that.
197.6 kilometers per hour. The championship title for Sim Sports Cars goes to Richard from Frankenberg. At this time, Goodman Volkswagen is already what we would now call a mega seller. But Porsche, too, has reason to celebrate. The 5,000th Porsche is completed.
5,000.
When I returned to
And peep this.
our daily
If you look at the 911
and we sold about 25
and even the
cars
356, it's a wide body Beetle. That's how I love the Beetle.
The Porsche myth definitely evolved over the past few decades because of the continuity of our model policy, because of the commitment we've shown to racing all these years.
They only had, back then, 98, you're talking, they only had 30, 40 years in the game, but they was already solid. They were solid. When my uncle had these shits, they were 20, 30 years proven already.
That's what produced the myth.
The design is so gorgeous, man.
Perfection starts with the Porsche 356. The front windshield is now curved. A tachometer is a central instrument. This coupe has 60 horsepower. It's the elegant Grand Dame.
60 horsepower
The
hardtop.
demands of Porsche drivers
First one
are
with the
no longer
tachometer.
restricted to performance. The brand becomes a status symbol.
Coupe. Green.
Uschke von Hanstein, a maître de plaisir for Porsche. Back then, every Porsche you came across on the road was still a sensation. People waved to each other, talked to each other at the gas stations and at the garage. Porsche owners talked when and wherever they could to exchange experiences. Does yours go 89 miles an hour as well, or only 87? The interesting thing about it was that all the customers flashed each other on the road because whoever was sitting in the other Porsche shared similar goals, interests, and attitudes towards life.
So they had their own car club, even though there was underground.
When you take into account that more than 2/3 of all Porsches ever built are still functional.
2/3 are still running. I'm trying to tell you, Reed. These niggas was Honda before Honda.
There are a number of things that are a myth among people. It's those you don't forget when they've died and who in death shine brighter than before, like Marilyn Monroe, Marlene Dietrich, Elvis Presley, and John Lennon. Those are legends. And James Dean, who died at the wheel of his Porsche. The legend evolved from numerous racing victories won not just by the Porsche works, but primarily by customers that made the name Porsche known around the world. Remember, the first customers raced the Porsche from 1950 on and had incredible success. So customer victory is also a part of the legend. Sports car racing. It's almost a sport for the masses during the wild 1950s in the USA. The factory reacts to this trend and produces a light minimum Porsche for competition. The designers create a Californian romance car with a low windshield.
The Speedster, Yellow Spider.
The Speedster is manufactured for 4 years and thereafter becomes the legend that is Porsche.
It's game over.
The Porsche 356A convertible.
A convertible.
Power under the hood. With 75 horsepower, the 1600 Super is considered to be state of the art.
1.6.
And the numbers continue to climb. In 1956, the 10,000th Porsche leaves the production line. Of course, the Porsche has now become somewhat more civilized and comfortable. The Porsche back then, prior to the 911, the 356, and also the racing cars, they were more brutal, a total driving experience. A wild child of the wind like the 356 Carrera wouldn't have had the same market success later on. 356 Carrera, a born winner, a new four-cylinder boxer engine with four overhead
Four
camshafts.
banger.
Its
Four-cylinder
launched in
boxer.
1955 with 90 cubic inches and 100
90.
horsepower, and in 1961
100.
with 2 liters and 130 horsepower.
2 liter in 62. I
A
ain't ready.
new engine, Porsche advances into the Champions League. Many big-name drivers successfully completed the school of the small Spider Porsche, including Edgar Barth and Wolfgang Graf Berger von Trips. The Spider RSK survived as a refined piece de resistance. With 148 horsepower, it's one of the strongest representatives of the four-cylinder dynasty.
Four-cylinder dynasty.
Long-distance races, the never-ending challenge. A man in a cap leads the team from victory to victory. Huschke von Hanstein. The Porsche 356C, the climax of the series. With leather comes luxury. Chrome is the element of the age. At any rate, the Porsche is presentable, even to royals, the Grimaldi family of Monaco. People liked to be seen driving it. The car evoked some sort of affection. It wasn't big, it was more pretentious in its modesty. One simply had the feeling that the Porsche driver was also a gentleman.
See?
In this day and age, a
Putting
Porsche
you onto
driver
the
has to be
game.
a very successful person with his own lifestyle. A qualified expert, courageous and extremely influential. Otherwise, the relationship between the car and the driver isn't right. Well, it depends on the person. When the wrong type of guy is seen sitting in a Porsche, it looks a bit strange. Porsche during the economic miracle of post-war Germany. 50,000 sold. The Carrera Abarth, the most Italian Porsche of them all. In its day, this lightweight Carrera with the Carrozzeria Italiana is a series winner. Porsche in the Formula One.
I remember going into the race, I had a big cold, a lot of sinus, I could hardly breathe. And when we won, it was just a great thrill for the whole team. And my cold was completely gone. It was a tremendous experience. We knew it was historically important, and it was just a wonderful thing to do.
Porsche steps on the gas. The new engine, 91 cubic inches or 1.5 liters, 8 cylinders and 180 horsepower.
8 cylinders.
American
180.
wins the race in Rouen, France. But the Grand Prix days are over at the end of the season. Fame is just too expensive. I was new to the studio, and my father was always saying, "Is the car too small? Should we make it bigger?" Some customers thought the car was too small, so they weren't buying another one. Those are the things that make you stop and think if we can get more customers. If we want to build a four-seater, But the question is, can I get more customers by doing it? The result? A chassis 7.5 inches longer called the T7. So the successor to the 356 was not a result of simply deciding to do things differently. We always talked about it, and then we finally experimented in plastic. We cut it apart, made it a bit longer, and changed it around. We discovered that the shape of the old Porsche no longer went with a longer car. It was all a result of working on the models. It was never the intention to create something completely different. The 356 was a great car. It was widely accepted. It had a solid customer base. That was the foundation. The 911 was built. It looks a little bit different, but is still basically the same as the 356. A short car was produced after the T7 that was similar to the 356 in its spatial form.
911 is long wheelbase. That's what made the perfect car.
We had vast experience with air-cooled cars.
When you look at
Decided
the
to stimulate
design
the
in
rear
the
motor
front,
to keep from
the
presenting customers with
actual
something completely new.
uh, the track, the actual
1964.
width of the front of the vehicle, its footprint,
Production of the new
it's
Porsche
actually wider
911 slowly
and
began.
it shrinks in like
But
the
the
car was
genuine
going to
code
the
of
future.
future
Think about it
technology
like that.
is defined.
When you think about animation, classic
Six-cylinder
animation
rear
from the 30s,
autobox
40s, and
structure.
50s,
A body of virtually endless beauty
959
carries the classic
is a
356
result
style,
of this
but not
because
in the way Porsche
911
drivers
is
complain.
just stretching the wheelbase. So they were able to pinch the back
A
just a
car
little
with a
bit
rear
more.
motor is ideal for someone who has
And
a feeling for physics.
what they discovered is legendary. The handling is perfect because
It would
it,
seem
it,
obvious that a
it
car
tucks
with
under
this
the
kind of
wind.
performance would also feature excellent
So it
rollover.
creates a diamond on each
The car is
pillar
largely neutral.
uh,
It's not
where
until you
each
drive a
wheel
bit
is.
more
So it's
aggressively
neutral.
through
When
curves
it
and
when it
the
goes
elevations
over,
that
it's
you
just
the
it
rear is
becomes a
noticeable.
circle. Think about it like that. The front bumper becomes the
But if
back
you are
bumper and
going to
vice
push the
versa,
car to the
while
limit,
it's still in
it would be
motion.
very useful to have just a bit of talent. In any case, the chassis can be controlled by minimal movement of the steering wheel. There's no such thing as surprising responses like sudden breakaways. You can drive this car so easily by just regulating the gas pedals that, as far as I'm concerned, there's no other one like it.
That's why there's
Or
nothing
like
like it.
this.
Every sports car wants to be a 911.
Porsche to me is the 911 legend. To a Porsche driver, the legend is the number 911, the shape of the original 911. That's the Porsche myth that people need. Specifically because the 911 combines all possible aspects of the word myth. I can imagine that men think of the Porsche differently, also in its evolution. But to me, it's primarily a car, but certainly not a myth. It evolved during the course of a conversation. What can we do to make the car different? And the result was the Targa. Once laws were passed in America about the convertible, stipulating that the rollover safety bar was mandatory, we decided we had to make a reinforced bar. The first Targa was designed so that people said the safety bar could be lowered like the roof, and that the safety bar can be rigidly attached with a ratchet like a fixed rollover bar. Dealers said, "What's this supposed to be? Are you kidding? It looks like a basket with a handle." It turned out that the Targa was actually a good idea, and we went forward with it. Only time will show just how good the idea is. The Targa rollover bar is later added to many sports car convertibles. The Porsche with the handle makes the rigid rear window a virtual milestone, a cross between the coupe and the convertible. It remains a success until 1993. The name Targa lives on in another Porsche. The 100,000th Porsche, also a Targa, is delivered to the German police.
100,000.
The Porsche design
Started with
philosophy is
500 in 3 years.
that has a lot to do with concave and convex. The Porsche has incredibly sensuous curves. The form is a miracle.
We're gonna do our module on the 930.
The design philosophy also has a lot to do with the quality and emotion of shape and form, since Porsche is the only German car manufacturer to risk having wide hips, so to say, a wide rear end and narrow waist, very feminine erotic cars. It goes back to the old shape without being vulgar. A sleek silhouette is the order in racing sports in the mid 1960s. The Porsche 904 identifies a new racing car generation with minimalist elegance. Their idol is no longer the well endowed Marilyn Monroe, but the model Twiggy, tall and thin. The last king in the four-cylinder dynasty with a 2-liter engine and 180 horsepower was a
2 liter,
series production and successful around the
180,
world.
so about 90
We made the
horsepower per
crank
liter.
seats for the racing division, a seat specially
Fucking crazy.
proportioned for every driver.
180 horsepower. This is a
Some
fucking
still do
race
more.
car,
We can make moldings.
and people want to
That's
have
how the
1,000 horsepower
904
cars.
came
It's
about,
like
with a rigid steel frame that the body was set on
these
and
people,
levitated.
man.
This desirable collector's item from the vast Porsche model range is now worth more than 10 times its original 1965 price. The shape of the 906 bulges again.
The 906
Porsche appears on
reminds
the
you
stage as a
of like
terrible
what the
player.
918 Spider would be in today's
The challenge
market.
posed by the competition results in a variety of new racing cars in the 906, 910, 907, and 908 series.
Over the years,
We'll
ever
give it
since I
one more
first
minute.
started driving for Porsche, I think every car they've ever produced has always been the best car the world's ever seen at that time, in terms of reliability, in terms of performance. Whereas that was
That's the key word right there, reliability. That's what it comes down to.
Porsche's hunting ground, the North Curve at the Nürburgring track.
Nürburgring, North Curve.
Winners of the 1,000-kilometer race, Vic Elford and Joe Siffert.
I think that we didn't go for the money as much as for the prestige and the enjoyment of driving these fabulous cars. I mean, to drive for Porsche in those days was the ultimate, and to be one of the chosen few to be picked to drive for those races was fantastic. So if they also paid you, that was really just a bonus.
Daytona, 24 hours under the hot Florida sun. Once again, 3 Porsches lead the pack. The 24 hours at Le Mans. Joe Siffert starts for Porsche. But with only 3 leaders against more powerful competitors, victory remains elusive.
Porsche is a very, very important part of automotive history, but it's certainly not a myth.
Look at the intake
That is Porsche.
right behind
It's
the
based on the fact
B
that
pillar,
Porsche has
C pillar
always been
area.
committed to
Beautiful.
motorsports and is synonymous with technology, as
Now,
well as with new avant-garde
the amazing
techniques.
thing is that we
And
get
I
to,
believe
as
that's the
coach
Porsche
builders, as collectors, we get to invest and build these way better. You know, for me, it's carbon composites and precious metals, but
adventurous road race in Sicily comes
we
down
get to
to a
do it in a
question
way
mark.
that's, you know,
Ferrari versus
futuristic.
Porsche is the duel of the late 1960s. The 40-mile circuit through the mountains and villages of Maroni are full of adventure. The match ends in 1973 with the score standing at 7 victories for Ferrari, 11 for Porsche.
11,
The
beat Ferrari
romance has
4 in a
its
row.
risks and side effects.
It's funny with co-drivers, you never become very close friends, hardly. You're friends, you know, you don't argue or have any problems like that, but you never discuss. I never discuss personal things. Siffert or X never discuss personal things with me.
Je regrette un peu cette ambiance qu'il y avait à l'époque.
I miss the atmosphere we had back then a bit, even if it was a much
Okay, so
simpler.
we'll stop it at 2140, and we will build our module around the 930. I'm looking for the slant nose, and we'll go more into detail as far as the turbo. So let me see what I can do so that we can code afterwards. So let me unhook this from Pro Tools, and that way I can have this on cue. But what I'll do is I'll actually pull it up here. Let's go 930 wiki, press enter. 930 should come up. Make sure that it's on engineering, large, wide, and dark. Okay. So very quickly, let's have a open discussion. Let's see what's been going on with the markets, and we'll check what's going on in all tech news. But we have some news. And here we go. Please open up your Baja apps. We'll start with crypto, then go to technology, Google News. Um, let me pick. Let me pick an article for us. Um, oh, okay. This is going. This is going. So we'll do that, and we will continue. So very quickly, let's just see what's been going on in the universe, right? And here we go. Make sure all the settings are there, and we can rock and roll. One quick second. Tether to mine Bitcoin with Brazilian energy partner. Tether Holdings announced on Thursday that it signed a memorandum of understanding with Brazil based renewable energy provider Adecoargo SE to mine Bitcoin using surplus power. This project is another step in our growing commitment to renewable powered Bitcoin mining and highlights the potential to align agricultural energy production with cutting edge digital infrastructure. Tether CEO Paolo Ardoino disclosed. The deal builds on Tether's existing operations in Uruguay and Paraguay as it seeks to harness stranded or underutilized energy sources for crypto production, expanding its mining footprint in South America. Adecoagro generates over 230 megawatts of renewable electricity in the region. Adeco, Adecoagro, SA, Adecoagro, ORD, 1072 a share. Ether in the red 0.64%, 2,575.46 per coin. Bitcoin in the red 0.41%, 109,199 at time of recording. Bitcoin at 3-week high exceeds 110,000. Bitcoin climbed above 110,000 for the first time since mid June on Thursday as it moved towards a fresh all time high. The world's biggest cryptocurrency surged to its record price on May 22nd when it sold for 111,995. Year to date, Bitcoin gained almost 18% and is up 4.32% in a month. Bitcoin added 1.04% at 5:54 a.m. Eastern Time to go for $110,019, 716 of a penny. Ethereum increased by 1.13% and went on sale for $2,600.60. I think, okay, let's just go over this. This is from the 30th. MicroStrategy Incorporated, doing business as Strategy, acquired 4,980 Bitcoin for about 531.9 million. Yeah, I believe we went over that. So please log on to gamingbible.com for more information. Gamingbible.com. This article is brought to us by Mr. Dan Lipscomb. Give me one quick second. I don't know why it's not allowing me to do a profile, but let's take it from the beginning. Let's go. PlayStation drops 3 free games you can download now in anniversary celebration. What better way to celebrate? We've not long seen the days of PlayStation 4 Play, which championed playing games on the Sony consoles, and we're now entering into another reason to celebrate. July 2025 marks the 15-year anniversary of PlayStation Plus launching, and Sony is starting the festivities by giving us three great games to play. These titles are part of your PlayStation Plus Essential subscription, so they can be downloaded and played right now. And the celebrations will continue as the months run on. I will always champion Diablo 4, which to me is the headliner this month. The game had a bit of a rocky start, but constant updates have turned it into a brilliant ARPG with a dark story and plenty to sink your teeth into. Sadly, it doesn't come with the DLC Vessel of Hatred, but that took the game even further. So if you enjoy the base game, I'd recommend you pick up the DLC and try out the new character class and map expansion. Jusant is also wonderful, but in a very different way, as it's an indie game that has you climbing mountains after a civilization has moved on from once living on the peaks. There are some lovely moments that feel meditative, and the core gameplay of shimmying up steep climbs is both relaxing and puzzling. The third game, which I've not played despite owning it since release, is King of Fighters 15 XV. As the name suggests, this is a fighting game with a long and celebrated history, and this latest installment is reportedly one of the best. It looks stunning in motion, so if you're eager to throw some hands, then get this one downloaded. Sony has said they will continue the month with tournaments, exciting PlayStation news, and there may even be a few more surprises. Featured image, credit SIE. So not bad. Quick little review there. Um, I want to share with you guys something I was doing earlier. So before I put today's class together, I knew you guys had finals, so I knew we needed a review. So I was working on some designs, but I like to be inspired when I design. I don't like to force myself. Like when I'm in design mode, I just design, right? So I'm actually viewing visuals from an engineering standpoint. So I'm looking at old school cartoons, I'm looking at movies, I'm looking at the way that user interfaces are being formatted. And I'm looking at the colors because it's all basic colors, right? So how would I program that? I start thinking to myself, not only for the visual aesthetics, but for the actual coding itself, which we're going to be doing later on today. But basically, having basic color sprites, right? How do we make modifications? I'm working on my fighting game right now, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own just because every time we're creating a new scene or a new chapter in the game, we all have to work with basic colors. So okay, so in this, let's say this fighting stage, what's going to be the background? What's going to be the theme? What colors are we using? What kind of graphics? Are we using graphics from the 30s and 40s and 50s? Are we using graphics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Or are we using modern techniques where if it was film, to give you an example, I really like old films because of the way that they looked aesthetically. The way that they felt to me was more engaging, where you could kind of pretend a little bit. I remember the shock that I felt when high definition movies came out. For me, it looked like a soap opera. In my culture, the women love novelas, the soap operas. That's all they watch. Spanish women, that's what they love. And I never wanted to see a movie like that. Even reality television. Remember, now everything that I'm consuming, I'm observing it from an engineering standpoint because I'm generating ideas for new products and services. So with the video game, it's something that I'm learning that I can use for my clothing line. So I have a clothing line that has a lot of graphics, and it's the same techniques incorporated for all type of marketing, whether it's digital or it's analog, hand-to-hand combat, etc. So now that we've shared that, let us continue. Um, Bobby, can you bring me my notebook and my things right there? They're on the. If you could just bring it to me, because I'm in a class right now. It's right there on the thing. So, in right there in the living room. Um, Let us continue with the 9:30. Um, Before I forget, I'm trying to think so I don't miss anything out because this is very therapeutic for me to be able to express all these things and break these things down as I'm working on the technology. I have a new version of Radar Plex. Thank you, Bobby.
Have you seen my black shoes?
No, remember, I have not at all. I haven't seen them moved or anything like that. I'm working on a new version, and I kind of want to test drive it. The program is fairly new, but it took a really long time to put it together, and I kind of wanted to test drive that. So let me see what else. What else we got going on? I think that pretty much covers everything. I dropped a new album today. The album is crazy. Shout out to my whole team, but I'm not here as an artist. I'm here as your educator, right here as a teacher. So back to design. I'm working on a new sculpturing strategy that can be drawn on paper and then manufactured easier than having to prototype through a clay model. Um, I think that the clay model works because obviously you see its application all over the world. It's very messy, extremely messy. And that is a deal breaker because, especially in different parts of the world, when you're prototyping, some of your business neighbors may not like that. So, let's say if you're in an industry that makes a lot of dust and powder and stuff like that, right? Automatically people complain because one way or another, that dust is going to make it to everybody else's business, right? Then when you're dealing with chemicals, you're dealing with the smells. And when you're doing composites, you already know everything smells horrible. That shit stinks. So you need like special ventilation and shit like that. So even though I don't like to, let's say, make noise at the facility, right? Because you're cutting, you're welding, you're hammering, you're doing this and that and the third. Back in the days, that's how coach builders would build cars. Back in the days, people had more respect for artisan style automotive engineering, and people understood. Now people, they'll complain. They'll say that your security dogs are barking too much. You know, a famous artist made a comment saying that he doesn't understand how people will complain that a natural, one of God's creations is just trying to express themselves, right? And people will complain because like they never had a dog or something in their life, and they don't understand that they're like little creatures. They're like Pokemon, but in real life, right? So he said, when they gave him a complaint, he said, I wish the dog could talk to me, but it can't. All it can do is bark. And it is very humbling. It's a very powerful life lesson message hidden in a bottle there. So I have to take that into account from a business standpoint based on my experience. And it always starts at home, right? You get a garage or a shed, or you get a work area where you start working on your car. Time progresses, you go from owning the home to owning a home inside of a gated community with a homeowners association that complains about the dog. They complain about the compressor. They complain that there's oil on the pavement. They complain about how you're cleaning it up. It's like it's a never ending thing. So it becomes a challenge, it stresses out the family. In the nucleus of your home, the family's complaining because you're making noise and you're using chemicals and you're building shit and you're always going to the junkyard. You're getting dirty parts. So now you got to clean the parts. Then you got to work on the parts. So what do you need? Eventually, you need professional space. All right, you got professional space. Some landlords, they say, just rent the space, do your thing, everything is good. And then it's only a matter of time. It's a ticking time bomb. It could be 6 months, it could be 10 months, it could be a year. Then it's like, oh, the music is too loud. Oh, you guys are drinking too many beers in the mechanic shop. Like, what do you expect people to do? You're working on cars all day. Like, you're working on a transformer all day. Think about it like that, right? And eventually, you want to cut your losses while you're ahead. You don't want to be renting in a facility where people are going to complain. So you start looking for remote areas away from the city, around business complexes. They have more limited spacing because they have many different industries. And before you know it, the more exclusive your construction becomes, the more expensive it becomes, and the more headaches you got to deal with. Meanwhile, the time frame for you to manufacture the vehicle is only being extended. So I've seen people have a $30,000 car and put $500,000 inside of it, even though the public only sees it like it's the civilian application of the vehicle. It's a very powerful, high performance machine. It's full of technology of the future. Most people don't understand. There are race cars that cost a few $1,000,000. So, what makes you think that the road going version of that car is going to be cheaper when it needs leather and a sunroof and the AC has to work and it has to have Android and Apple CarPlay and it has to have all these things that people want because it is not reality to be able to live with a high performance vehicle like that. It's like the closest thing to owning a private aircraft. A private jet is going to cost you money even when it doesn't fly, even when it's being parked. Every time it takes off, you're going to pay a fee. Every time it lands, you're going to pay a fee. So, this is why you see people gravitate towards like NASCAR or GT3, GT3R class like me, prototype class, and you kind of stay there because it costs millions of dollars to play that game. Look at the example we used today with Porsche. It took them 3 years to build 500 cars. It took them a little bit more than that to win at Le Mans. That's incredible. From a business standpoint, that is not an easy fit or an easy feat to accomplish. And I've been doing this for a very long time. And I always tell my loved ones, this is day one. So this process that I'm working on now, it's more complicated because you still need to have some type of either clay models or maybe do some 3D printing, which may save you a little bit of a headache, a little bit of time, but then that also incorporates additional costs. And you need the oven, you need the enclave, you need the high pressure lines for the composites and stuff like that. And guess what? Just because you built a frame doesn't mean that it's perfect. Doesn't mean that it doesn't need work. Doesn't mean that you don't need a way to test everything that you're putting together. It doesn't mean you don't have to outsource to companies like Monroe to, put it on a laser machine to make sure everything is the way that it's supposed to be, especially when you're racing against regulation series. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, life still happens. So sometimes a lot of ideas for entrepreneurs are a little bit more complex to execute because you're dealing with so many different factors. And these are the things that we have to take into consideration anytime that we are thinking about an investment, because you eventually get to a point as an entrepreneur where you've made enough money, but now the money that you make, you want it to be contributing to your quality of life, the way that you live your life. What's your day to day? And all of those things are important. For example, I'm an artist, right? So, as an artist, the demands of my career are completely different from the demands of my personal life, but I also need something for myself. And for me, my creative expression is through engineering, it is through automotive pursuits. Um, it is a very centrifugal, formal part of my life because all of my events are geared around entertainment and music and technology and investments and networking with people, working with the military community, working with the educational boards and things like that. Still mentoring people and understanding that even as a doctor, I have to turn it off every once in a while because I realize that we're all dealing with people and you have to meet people where they are. I'll give you an example. There's an artist that I'm kind of trying to mentor, but the lines of communication are getting very blurry where this person is not understanding what I'm saying. That's just one example. There's another person that worked with me on a project and still, after so many years, still has the smallest mentality. And I went as far to explain to this person, like, listen, I'm in technology. This is a different crowd. You cannot be ghetto as fuck around these people. You really got to be on your best behavior at all times because your reputation precedes you, right? And if you close a door with one of my business partners, you're going to close the door with all of my business partners because people will just not answer your phone call. People will not return your emails. They're not going to return your text. You're not going to be invited when there's a new product or service or a new investment because this is a club. This is a group of people that have similar backgrounds, they have similar beliefs, and it is a sweet science. It's not something that you can explain to people. I gave you the example with Saul El Canelo Alvarez. Everything that I taught Canelo came true. I guarantee you, as successful as he is, and shout out to him, if he could go back and take one more piece of advice, he could have been like an Elon Musk right now. Who am I to want that for somebody? So in this second example, and we just use Canelo as a second example. So let's go with the third example. This third example, once again, is a person that doesn't have eyes to see all of the opportunities that have been bestowed upon this person. And all I can do is allow a river to flow and not get carried away with it. I can see the river flowing and not get carried away with it because I understand. I understand now why getting an education was so important. Learning the communication skills was so important. A part of me wants to finish the module, but a part of me also knew that I had to connect with everybody and give them the best piece of advice that I can give them. It's not just automotive design because it comes down to multitasking and how you deal with things on your day to day in life. So, for example, a part of me wants to start working on the program. I have a new version of Radarplex. Excellent. A part of me wants to give you advice as an artist, but a part of me wants to give you advice as an entrepreneur. A part of me wants to give you advice as a doctor or an author or a philanthropist or just an entrepreneur, venture capitalist, which is what I am. So, without going into the politics that you're force fed in the media, I'm going to focus on the fact that Bitcoin hit over 110,000. This is the investment that I've been involved in, as far as I can remember. I have a child that was a baby when this technology came up and about. And I remember going through the years and that learning curve and just imagining what it could be, like how this could really go somewhere. To this day is a challenge to have this kind of conversation. I'm very socially awkward, even though I can perform as an artist in front of 300,000 people. I can perform on television for millions of people. But it's different when you have that human interaction, when you have that commitment from a person. And to fully understand that I've been able to be blessed enough to cherry pick the people on my team. And I'm very careful in what positions in the company I put each person. I try to highlight every person's natural attributes and let them be great at what they do. But like the artist that I was mentoring, and I can say I'm no longer going to be, in the short time that I was able to work with this artist, all of the key factors were given to this person early. This person still does not understand. If they're willing to burn a bridge with me, not directly, indirectly, because, obviously they didn't know how to propose the message that they wanted to convey to me. And that's the reason why I would never do business with them. I feel in my heart that I gave this person enough warnings, and this person continues to do it. My fear is loss control, damage control, public relations. Imagine we're in a meeting and I just so happen to invite this person where I'm surrounded by my peers. And these people are all professionals. They're people that are wealthy. Okay, these are people that very rarely would have a conversation about money, and it is a sweet science to be able to actually do that. And it's something that we are constantly learning how to best administrate. You know, these are the things that make a difference in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, how do you how do you talk about money without talking about money? How are you able to close a deal when you have to close a deal? Because at the end of the day, we're here to do business. You know, I could do a module on the 930 turbo and I can sell you a 980 a 930 turbo. Or you can buy one of my NFTs with one of my songs where I'm talking about it. Or you could watch a movie where you hear my song, or you could play a video game where you hear my song, or you could watch a commercial where you hear a portion of my song, or you could buy a piece of apparel that has my music on it. The variables are unknown. The common consensus should be understood. The same way that I identified the importance of educating myself, right? You would think that every professional would do the same. And it's not about a degree. It's not about you need to be accredited from an accredited educational institution. Once you have the knowledge, you kind of have the knowledge, whether you got it from a used bookstore. It is important for me to be able to trust the people around me. In the same way that I represent my family when I'm in public, all of the people in my company are representing me. And if they're representing me, they're representing my loved ones. And that includes my family and my children. So if there's something that I would never dare say when talking about money, what gives anyone the right, the justification, the jurisdiction to be able to do that? When I'm already saying it from day one, listen, that's not the way we have conversations about money, especially around these people. Two different people that I mentored in two different ways. One is a little bit older than the other, right? Both of them I explained. You obviously, both of you, do not understand what money is. You don't understand what wealth is. You don't know how success is built or established. You're living in an alternate, bizarro world, in a bizarro reality. At the same time, when you pray, God is listening, right? So God is giving you what you're praying for. You're praying for an opportunity, you got it. You're praying for a career, not a job, you got it. You want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, or more, you can make billions of dollars in my company. It's all up to you. Now, it's not easy. I'll tell you that right now. It's not going to be easy, but the potential is there, right? So, what happens when you yourself, as the mentor, have already stated it plenty of times in meetings, in, gatherings? Listen, when it comes to money, this is my company. This is my business. I have everything invested in myself. I've sacrificed my entire life for this. I am the only person that talks about money. I'm the only person that talks about negotiations. I'm the only person that finalizes and signs off on every pitch deck, every proposal, every business plan. Everything goes through me. I pay the cost to be the boss. So I'm the boss. This is my company. Nobody else has that authority. I can give you a warning gently, lightly, kind heartedly, but my word is final. My word is bond. Yes is yes, no is no. Out of your jurisdiction, out of your understanding, out of your job criteria or expertise, above your pay grade, there's nothing else for me to tell you. I'm only going to tell you one time. On top of that, I'm a very religious person. And every company that does business with my company understands this. And if we don't have the same moral compass, the same cloth values, we cannot do business. So when somebody goes out of their way to overstep above all the boundaries and still force the issue to talk about money, when I find it offensive, like, listen, I already said this in meetings prior, and the person continues to do it, there's nothing to talk about. You're fired. That's it. You had your warning. It's nothing personal. It's only business. I wish you the best. If you need a letter of recommendation, I got you. You need help with the resume, we'll put the whole company to put the best portfolio so you can go find work somewhere else. But you cannot be part of this company. We have millions of people, churches, and charities that depend on us every single day. Where we want to get to, the promised land of milk and honey, God is not going to take us if we allow people like yourself to be a part of this company. So thank you, but you're no longer welcomed here. And it hurts when you have to be realistic, be authentic, be honest, and express that. My intention is not to hurt anybody, but this business is not for everybody. This business is tough. And sometimes things happen in waves, sometimes things happen in droves, but it is just a reality and the nature of this business. So sadly, both of these people are added to a list of people that could have made millions of dollars and will never know, at least from the standpoint of my company, they'll never know what that is. Let's take a quick pause. We're going to finish with theory, but let's finish our module and we'll be able to talk about it because when it comes to design, this is a very important element. One quick second. Everybody take a break, stretch, and get comfortable because we're going to chapter 2. So, from an engineering standpoint, right, I think about why this design was so pivotal. Out of all of the previous models that were available, that were more affordable, my uncle chose to collect these. And it's always been a mystique and an intrigue in my life to understand why. I would question things like, why does the car only have one rear view mirror on one door? I didn't understand the difference between European specs, American specs, the difference in the bumpers, the bumper guards, the protectors, the headlight protectors, the housing around it, um, even the models that were turbocharged. If you notice, part of the wing was still made out of like a composite, but it was more like a rubber, something like that. I guess you would call it. But that's what I think about it. Let's carry on, okay? Here we go. Porsche 911 930, German turbocharged sports car variant. The Porsche 930 is a turbocharged variant of the 911 model sports car manufactured by German automobile manufacturer Porsche between 1975 and 1989. Ken Masters had a turbo convertible. It was the maker's top of the range 911 model for its entire production duration. And at the time of its introduction, was the fastest production car in Germany. 3 liters were from 75 to 77, 2,819 produced. That's a successful campaign. 78 to 89, the 3.3 liter, the stroker motor, 18,770 produced. Amazing. So think about it from a product placement standpoint. So you create the prototype, you create the racing program, you create the car, you get the data points, you launch the vehicle. 2 years, 3 liters, we do the best that we can. We only built 2,819 cars. Then we stroke the motor, an improvement of 0.3333%. And you go from 2,819 sales to 18,770. This is in the course of 11 years of manufacturing. So 11 years divided by 18,000, it's about 2,000 cars a year. From 75 to 77, they were only doing 1,400 cars, give and take, per year. So that was an increase again of 30%. They stroked the motor by 30%, increased the power by 0.33.33, and increased sales by 30%. Look how much of a difference that is. It looks like the first batch of cars were just prototypes. They were just making their money back. So again, for my economics majors, I want you guys to break that down for me. 5 pages, 5 paragraphs each, 5 sentences each sentence, 5 words per sentence, 5 computer spaces in between, 5 pages, 5 revisions, show all the work. If you don't show all the work, I'm going to assume you use technology and you won't get any credit for it. You can use your hyper scientific, you can use Sarah, Siri, Alexa, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, or any combination thereof. You can use all of them if you like, but please show the work. So, assembly was in West Germany, Stuttgart, Zuffenhausen. Came as a 2 plus 2 coupe, 2 plus 2 convertible, 2-door Targa. Rear engine, rear wheel drive. Platform is the Porsche G Series. Related is the 911, 934, 935, 959, and 961, which you know this is a university for the 959. So the 3 liter is the 93050 air cooled turbo flat six. This is 6 cylinder. And The 930-60 is the 3.3 liter stroker air cooled turbo flat six. 4-speed manual, 5-speed GetTrack G50 manual. Of course, that's the top of the line wheelbase, 2,272 millimeters, 89.4 inches length, 4,291 millimeters, 168.9 inches width, 1,775 millimeters, 69.9 inches height, 1,311 millimeters, 51.6 inches. Curb weight 1,210 to 1,379 kilograms, 2,668 pounds to 3,040 pounds. Remember when we did the comparison to the Model 3, and when you look at the weights, think about the performance characteristics. The predecessor was the 911 Carrera RS 3.0, and the successor is the 964 Turbo, which is one of my favorites. Now, to put this into context, look at the GT3s. My favorite are, the 3 liter class. Some are stroker, but you don't need any more than that. So let us continue. Model history. Let's take a quick break. Official test start time 2 minutes. And here we go. Porsche began experimenting with turbocharging technology on their race car during the late 1960s, and in 1972 began development on a turbocharged version of the 911. Porsche originally needed to produce the car in order to comply with homologation regulations and had intended on marketing it as a street legal race vehicle like the 973 Carrera 2.7 RS. The FIA's Appendix J rules, upon which the 911 Turbo Carrera RS2R 2.1 was entered into competition in 1974, changed in 1975, and in 1976. The FIA announced that cars for Group 4 and Group 5 had to be production cars and be available for sale to individual purchasers through manufacturer dealer networks. For the 1976 season, new FIA regulations required manufacturers to produce 400 cars within a 24-month period to gain approval for Group 4. Group 5 would require the car to be derived from a homologated model in Group 3 or 4. Porsche's Group 4 entry was the 934, homologated on the 6th of December 1975. For Group 5, Porsche would develop one of the most successful racing cars of the time, the 935. The 911 Turbo was put into production in 1975. While the original purpose of the 911 Turbo was to gain homologation for the 1976 racing season, it quickly became popular among car enthusiasts. 400 cars were produced by the end of 1975, since Porsche wanted to compete in the 1976 season. They gained FIA homologation for the Porsche Turbo for Group 4 in NR645 on the 6th of December 1975, and the 1000th 911 Turbo was completed on the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo 1976. So they made 1,000 of these shits. Unbelievable. Shout out to you, Porsche. Porsche 930 Turbo number one. It's actually at the museum. It's silver, has a red interior, has the logo, stripes on the side. It's amazing. Beautiful machine. Definitely on my most wanted list. Okay. Ferry Porsche gave the first turbo model to his sister, Louise Piège, for her 70th birthday. Although this 911 Turbo, number one, already has the large rear spoiler of the later production model. It still has the narrower bodywork of the Carrera, whose lettering at the rear has not been removed. In addition, the 911 Turbo number 1 has only a turbocharged 2.7-liter boxer engine with 177 kilowatts, 240 horsepower, instead of the 3-liter boxer engine installed later. Ernst Furman adapted the turbo technology originally developed for the 917 91730 Can-Am car and applied it to the 3-liter flat 6 used in the Carrera RS 3.0, thus creating what Porsche internally dubbed as the 930. The car utilizes a single KK and K turbocharger. Total power output from the engine was 260 PS, 191 kilowatts, 256 brake horsepower at 5,500 RPM, and 329 newton meters of torque, 243 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM, much more than the standard Carrera it was based on. The engine has a compression ratio of 651 in order to ensure that the platform could make the most of the higher power output. A revised suspension, larger brakes, and a stronger gearbox became part of the package. Although some consumers were unhappy with Porsche's use of a 4-speed transmission, whilst a 5-speed manual transmission was available in the lower trim Carrera. A whale tail rear spoiler was installed to help vent more air to the engine and to create more downforce at the rear of the vehicle, and wider rear wheels with upgraded tires combined with flared wheel arches were implemented in order to increase the car's width and grip, making it more stable. Porsche badged the vehicle simply as Turbo, although early US units were badged as Turbo Carrera, and introduced the vehicle at the Paris Auto Show in October 1974 before putting it on sale in the spring of 1975. Export to the United States began in 1976. The 930 proved very fast, but also very demanding to drive, and due to its short wheelbase and rear engine layout, was prone to oversteer and turbo lag. It acquired the nickname the Widowmaker after several crashes and deaths attributed to its handling characteristics, which were unfamiliar to many drivers. Under certain conditions, applying too much throttle could cause the heavy rear end of the car to swing outward like a pendulum, causing the car to spin out. To this day, Porsche corporate employees who drive 911 turbo models for testing or for business reasons are mandated to undergo turbo training, despite the fact that the newer 911 turbo models are generally safer and easier to drive. Porsche made its first and most significant changes to the 930 for the 1978 model year, enlarging the entire engine bore by 2 millimeters, 0.08 inches, to a total displacement of 3,299 cubic centimeters, 3.3 liters, 201.3 cubic inches, and adding an air-to-air intercooler. By cooling the pressurized air charge, the intercooler helped increase power output to 300 PS, 221 kilowatts, 296 brake horsepower at 5,500 RPM, and 412 newton meters of torque, 304 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM, DIN. The rear whale tail spoiler was reprofiled and raised slightly to make room for the intercooler, and the spoiler was now infamously called the T tray spoiler by the enthusiast. The suspension benefited from new anti roll bars, firmer shock absorbers, and larger diameter rear torsion bars. Porsche also upgraded the brakes to units similar to those used on the 917 race car, while the increase in displacement and addition of an intercooler increased power output and torque. These changes also increased the weight of the vehicle, especially the engine, which contributed to a substantial change in the handling and character of the car compared to earlier 3.0 liter models. Changing emissions regulations in Japan and the United States forced Porsche to withdraw the 930 from those markets in 1980. It, however, remained available in Canada. Envisioning the luxurious 928 Gran Turismo, eventually replacing the 911 as the top of the Porsche model lineup. Furman cut back further development on the model, and it was not until his resignation that the company finally committed to financing to update the car's emission systems and recently recertified the 930 for sale in all markets. The 930 remained available in Europe, and for 1983, a 330 PS, 243 kilowatt, 325 brake horsepower at 5,750 RPM and 432 newton meters of torque, 319 foot pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM. The performance option became available on a built to order basis from Porsche, with the so called Warkeslandstegen WLS Works Performance Increase add on came a quad pipe exhaust system and an additional oil cooler requiring a remodeled front spoiler, and units bearing the add on often featured additional ventilation holes in the rear fenders and modified rockers. So I want you to think about this. We're dealing with a flat six engine. They're piping everything to four lines, so four exhausts, two on each sides, right? So two on each bank in order to basically fit the turbo in that exchange of the inertia coming off of the like the engine design. So if you have six output lines, it will be free flowing, which would be more of a characteristic of a naturally aspirated engine. If you box everything in through four lines, then that creates a little bit more back pressure, which would make it an ideal environment for turbocharging. Not that I agree, but this was their thinking at the time. By the 1985 model year, 928 sales had risen slightly, but the question remained as to whether it would supersede the 911 as the company's premier model. Porsche reintroduced the 930 to the Japanese and US markets in 1986 with an emission controlled engine having a power output of 282 brake horsepower, 210 kilowatts, 286 PS at 5,500 RPM and 377 newton meters of torque, 278 pound-feet at 4,000 RPM. At the same time, Porsche introduced the Targa and the Cabriolet variants, both of which proved popular. Porsche discontinued the 930 after the 1989 model year when its underlying G Series platform was being replaced by the 964. The 1989 model were the first and last versions of the 930 to feature the GetTrack G50 5-speed manual transmission, a turbocharged variant of the 964 officially succeeded the 930 in 1991 with a modified version of the same 3.3-liter flat six engine and a 5-speed transmission. Flat nose, slant nose 930S. This is my baby right here. I love these cars. 1988 factory 930 Cabriolet flat nose. Kramer Racing had originally begun offering conversion kits for the 930 turbo models, which included front bodywork like the famous 935 race car in 1981. In 1982, Tag Heuer, co-owner Mansour Ohay, commissioned Porsche to develop a road legal version of the 935 race car. The final product was developed using a body shell of the 930 and fitting fabricated 935 body panels to it. The one-off also had the suspension and brakes shared with the 935 race car. Other special features of the car included special paintwork called Brilliant Red by the manufacturer, BBS wheels, and the use of the 3.3-liter turbocharged flat six engine of the 934 race car. The car proved very popular among enthusiasts and prospective buyers. They began to demand a similar car as a factory offering. Porsche offered a flashbow, flat nose or slant nose 930 under the Sonderwunsch program, special order program for the 1986 model year, an otherwise normal 930 with a 935 style slant nose instead of the normal 911 front end with the replacement of the famous bug eye headlamps with pop up units. Each Flaschenbau unit was handcrafted by remodeling the front fenders, option code M505 for the US and M506 elsewhere. A limited number of units were produced due to the fact that the package commanded a high premium price. An additional premium of up to 60%, highly individualized cars requiring even more over the standard price. 948 units were built in total, with 160 of them being imported to the United States. The flashbow units delivered in Europe usually featured the 330 PS, 243 kilowatt, 325 brake horsepower engines, WLS performance kits. The flat nose greatly contributed to the aerodynamics of the car and enabled it to accelerate from 0 to 97 kilometers per hour in 4.85 seconds and attain a top speed of 278 kilometers per hour, 173 miles per hour. Figures with the performance kit. Now, let me see. Okay. Conclusion. We're going to take a little break because I'm going to step out real quick. In the 1980s, Porsche built twin turbocharged 1.5-liter V6 engines for the McLaren Formula One team. The engine was given the code TTEP01 and was fitted in the McLaren MP4-2 and MP4-3. Remember, we just did a module on MPC 412C, generating 760 to 1014 PS, 559 to 746 kilowatts, 750 to 1,000 horsepower. This is in the 80s. And you guys are impressed, right? Because the Corvette got 1,000, the Hellcats got 1,000. Come on, man. These cars were doing 1,600 horsepower in the fucking 20s, depending on track conditions. The engine was financed by Luxembourg Line Holdings Company Techniques Avant-Garde Tag, leading to the engine being branded as the Tag Turbo. A Porsche 930 Turbo was used as a test mule by McLaren in order to test the engine's capability. The car was exterior wise similar to the standard 930 Turbo, but featured roof source wheels instead of the standard Fox units, a taller rail tail, rear spoiler in order to accommodate a large pair of intercoolers, and a new front bumper. The changes to the interior consisted of racing bucket seats and a new tag branded tachometer with a 10,000 RPM redline. In September 2018, English automotive company Lazante introduced a new model based on the same principle at the Rennsport Reunion 5, actually 6, VI. The company obtained permission from McLaren to produce the model and brought 11 of those engines originally installed in the F1 cars for this purpose from the manufacturer. Cosworth is tasked to restore the engines. Each of the 11 cars fitted with the engines could come with a plaque signifying the engine's race history, engine number, and the car's production number. Lazante display car's engine was originally fitted in the 1984 for Niki Lauda's MP4-2, in which he won the British GP. So McLaren wins the British GP in 84 with the Porsche engine. Just like, Honda had their run right afterwards. But I think it was amazing to have that module with you guys. I'm going to put a little bit of background music. I'll be right back. You guys won't be able to hear much, but it'll be in the background. I'm going to step away for 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. As promised, I had to take a quick break. So, in conclusion, right? Let's put this down because they'll copyright strike it immediately. So, now as an educator, being able to change gears, right? What would be my advice? How can I help somebody dealing with a similar situation? So, even if I want to give you everything, right? My music career has spanned several decades. Even if I find a key point that I want to delegate to you, right? You may understand the concept, but you may not understand where my perspective is coming from. So if I say, it's unethical, it's inappropriate to discuss money with people that are potential business partners, when we all know that, we're all deca millionaires. So we're just trying to grow our portfolio. We're not here to build a portfolio. We're expanding, we're diversifying, we're scaling, right? What would be my advice? Like, how could I help a new entrepreneur understand that? So let's change positions here, right? My advice would be, and maybe I need to work on my communication skills. Maybe I didn't convey this properly. During several investments and events, live events that I was putting together. I reached out to a group of people for help. They were unable to assist. Great, let it be. Time passed. Before that event could take hold, I was asked to make a donation. I said, listen, I have a foundation, you know, I'm a philanthropist. Everything has to go through my foundation, has to go through my churches, it has to get approved by the board. Like, this is not a conversation that you're going to have personally with me, because that's why I built the foundation so I don't have to do that. I've been a celebrity my whole life. Because I'm a religious person, I chose to do it this way. I do everything through my churches and my charities, and that's it. That's the standard of doing business with me, right? So, what I conveyed to this person is, this is inappropriate for you to ask me when I'm offering you a job, when you have to embrace the code of armor, the code of honor, the code of arms for this company. So if you made the mistake in judgment to ask me that question, what guarantees me that you have the backbone not to make the same mistake with somebody else? Because you may be speaking to these people because they're my friends, but you're representing my company. They automatically are going to tell you that you're way beyond, you know, a situation that you understand. And they're going to be polite, but it's going to get back to me. And I'm going to have no choice but to eliminate you from the company, right? So, my advice to a new entrepreneur would be, with time, as you attain success, you will understand that it is not necessary. Whatever variables are unknown, but the variables that are known, we have to be excellent at. So it's no different than somebody walking inside your home and not removing their shoes. You're obviously not in your home, so you're not going to behave, you know, out of place, right? Or out of line. So why would you do that in somebody else's company, somebody else's investment? All I can do is close that chapter or that book in my life and say, you know what? This person definitely is not ready and may never be ready. I would like for all of you guys to learn that valuable lesson, because it was a very hard decision. I made the decision immediately. Um, what would be my advice moving forward? If you have found yourself in a situation like that as an entrepreneur and you did not yield the results that you were interested in, change your approach, change your strategy. Sometimes you can sever ties and burn a bridge permanently. Never take that opportunity, never take that chance, especially if you really don't have to. I have maybe five or six, maybe seven of my friends are billionaires. Everybody is always mesmerized. They're marveled that these people are my friends. And every person that I can give business advice to is this: I know I have one phone call that I can make. And I always made it a standard to myself. If I ever make that phone call, it is going to be $1 trillion phone call. It's going to be like, yo, I got the new iPhone type phone call. I got the new PlayStation 5. I would never burn that bridge. I would never sacrifice the friendship, the bond, the brotherhood, the respect, the honor, the experiences, the life experiences, the things that I've learned. I would never jeopardize that for no business deal, no amount of money on the planet. That's a standard. That's a very high standard. I hold myself up to that standard. Therefore, the same is true for everything else. Second example, and I hope that you guys can learn what I'm doing my best to try to convey to you guys. In the second example, you have a person that over time has proven to not grasp the concept that times are different. And because of that, does not embrace the changes that technology has had in business. This person fails to realize that they're swimming against the current. All the opportunities that seem to be out there in the universe are inside of this person because the opportunities continue to present themselves. I've been able to work with this person for several years, and I know that I lost count of how much money this person has lost in deals, burned bridges, all kinds of stuff. That it's like you have to treat people as they are where they are. If a person shows you that they can't handle $1 million investment, I'm not going to put $100 million investment in their hands. If they can't handle $100,000 investment, then I can't put them in charge of $1 million investment. What would be my advice? Make sure that when you decide that you are ready, that you are primed to handle, an executive account, whether it starts at 10,000, then you move to 100,000, a half a million, or $1 million, or maybe you have clients that have $5 million portfolios. Make sure that you're ready for it. Don't ask for the opportunity unless you're ready. Because if we sponsor you, if we endorse you, our names are being represented here. You're not only burning a bridge for yourself and blocking yourself from receiving the blessings, right? Further down the line, you don't know how much collateral damage that can be for one of my investments. And I know that with everything that we're working on and the people that we're working with, every business opportunity is a few $1 million. And if you cannot understand that, if that cannot be part of your day to day, you're not fit to be part of this company. So, what would be my advice? Make sure that when you ask for an executive position, that you're ready for it. This is not because I've been in the company this long, or because of my pretty face, or because of entitlement. This is you consume what you hunt. If you closing $25 million deals, how can I not pay you a few $1 million a year? Again, if you're closing a $50,000 deal and you're giving me a headache, then I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I know that you cannot handle a $1,000 deal. So if you didn't learn the valuable lessons in the short amount of time span, I don't have any more time to risk and waste on a person because I'm very observant. I'm very firm, but I'm very fair. And again, I don't like to leave my students or my mentees in the dark. If I'm going to correct you about something, I'm going to explain to you why I'm correcting you about that. And I'm going to give you the choice to improve and better yourself for your future, even if that is outside of my company. And that's when you get to know who the person really is because in business, we're going to cross paths somehow, some way in the future. I never forget a face. Never. Every opportunity that God gives me, I know that He didn't have to give it to me. So I hold it with that much importance. And again, it's always kind of sad when, as the owner of the company, I have to fire somebody and not necessarily fire them like, here's your severance package, here's your, everything that you need to get yourself going. And you can still help, loosely in your position until you find another position. But you know that, you know, this time is over for you in this company. And it is because of the hard work of so many people that we have to be this way. I just had one of my execs get married. Like that's fucking huge. Somebody that interned is one of the bosses in the company. And she's living the dream. While we're negotiating this deal with my catalog, she's getting married. She's living her life. And you know what? Now it's going to be even sweeter because she knows she has millions of dollars on the way to her. So imagine now when she gets that money, she has somebody to enjoy that money with and go travel the world and do all the things that, we've been doing since this person joined the company, but it will be different because this person can afford $1 million car if they want to. When this person started with the company, it was not like that. So for me to be able to share that in an intimate setting, in an intimate conversation, like first of all, you're like my sister. So let's get that out the way. Second of all, I always believed in you because you understood. And even when it was hard, she still powered through. And I come from an era where you respect those things in a person because you know how hard it is to hold yourself up to that standard. So now she's a multimillionaire. She's a boss in the company. And I'm very proud of her. And all I could say is, yo, congratulations because dreams come true. But what was it about her that understood what these other execs don't understand? She understood the concept of time. She knew what she wanted and she was laser focused. Doesn't mean that the laser focus was perfect, but she understood that, listen, God, if you just give me a companion, everything else is going to flow from my happiness. So now that the money's coming in, it tastes like pastries. It's the sweetest victory that you can have because this person is living a complete life. Like it can only get better. If it's a house that she wanted, she can only buy a better one. If it's a car that she wanted, she can only have a better one. If it was travel, she can only travel to many more places. If there was things that she wanted to do, now she's able to do because she understood and she believed. And really, that is the non-negotiable, intangible item that came from within her. She found the opportunities within herself to push. And let me tell you, a lot of gentlemen in my company, but she passed she passed everybody doing 225 miles an hour because she understood the vision. She prayed. She got down on her fucking knees and put the business plan together and say, all right, you go hammer in this market in this part of the world. I'm gonna go handle Latin America, and we're gonna come together and fucking form Voltron. And now the bond is forever. How many other execs didn't have the same opportunity that she had, or better? And their priorities were on different things. They were occupied with different distractions. And now, you know, my manager can afford $1 million car. And they probably can't. And if they can, it's very limited. It would be hard for them to do that. She could do that with her eyes closed because she understood. Like she was there for the Taylor Swift records that we released, the Taylor Swift songs. She was there for all three songs. She was there for the NFT. She knew that it was going to take time, but once the agreement was reached, she knew she was going to get uh, a nice bonus. And you know what? She deserves it. It's out of my hand. I can't even I can't even comment. I can't vote down on it. I just gotta say, yo, keep going. Cause the next one is gonna be even better. Why is it that you have five people in a similar situation, only one gets the gold? Faith, belief, drive, motivation, discipline, education, hard work, sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears. Nothing else. The harder she works, the luckier she gets, and the more deals she closes. And guess what? Money attracts money. Now people want to do business with her. I'm being greedy. I'm telling everybody you can't do business with her. She belongs to my company. But now she has her own money to be her own investor into her own things. Now that I can support, that I can say, yo, go for it. The three examples that I gave you earlier, they could have easily made a few $1 million, easy, without even trying. Canelo, he would have made 4 times his net worth right now. Whatever he's done in his career, he would have stayed with me. He would have done 4 or 5 times that with his eyes closed, and probably more than that if you think about it. But that's life. Everything that glitters is not gold. Now he understands that. Now he knows that. And wait till he fights Terrence Crawford. He's gonna, man, it's gonna be a rude awakening. It's gonna be a rude awakening. Yep. He's looking like the golden ticket in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory right now. And that's what's gonna happen. Look at the sequencing, the way that they've, structured the events. Everything that glitters ain't gold. That continue to say that. One of those execs, again, is part of a multi-million-dollar company as well as being involved with some projects we're working on. And this person has a level of success that is seldomly seen, and it's only 1 to 2, maybe 3% when this person is speaking in public that this person has broken it down like, yo, this person just doesn't understand. And no matter what you do to try to give everything to this person, like, yo, this is the formula. This is what you got to do. This is how you do it, and whatever, and go win, go do whatever. And they just don't have it in them. And I have to defend God. I have to protect God in this situation. I know this person has prayed, and I know God has given this person the blessing, and they still found a way to destroy it. When there are people like me that had nothing, I come from a village where there was no fucking roads. You know what I'm saying? And all I could have done my whole life was pray, God, please give me an opportunity like that. I wish I met me 30, 40 years ago and would say, yo, this is how you do it. These are the books. Learn this, go to school, get this degree, this, that, and the third. I didn't realize working for Fidelity, getting my securities license, I bombed at the job. I did so good that they hated on me. I had to leave the company. I made too much fucking money for their comfort, not knowing in the future it was going to lead to me starting a corporation and starting my holdings company and investments and blah, blah, blah. BlackRock, Blackstone. Here we go. AFES, Air Force, Space Force. Just like that. It was a $5,000, $6,000 investment, maybe 5, 6 months of my time. I had no idea at the time that it would all come full circle. That I would go to school and study financing and worldwide trade and limited liability corporations and international law. Like, you just don't know. But I took the time to invest into myself, pour into myself all of this knowledge, knowing that one day I was going to be able to use it for my own company, for my own loved ones. One day it was going to be worth it. One day it was going to make sense. And the beginning is hard. It is hard. People don't understand. My technology company, I just celebrated 8 years with the company. I started with $3.5 million, and I probably put another fucking 40 on top of that. But now we're talking BlackRock, Blackstone. Now I could say I have 6 or 7 billionaire friends, and they're only making more money. I know some of them are worth a few more than a few $1 billion, but I understand. And when people go out of their way to tell you in a respectful way, like, that's kind of inappropriate. I know our culture, I know our background, I know where we come from, and we've been through a lot. We all have. Everybody goes through a lot, but we're at a different moment of life, a different point of life. We cannot conduct ourselves that way. We have to have Tom Ford. We need to have business suits. We need to have meetings. We need to have presentations. We need pitch decks. We need to talk to every venture capital firm. These are our clients. This is where our success is. You might get invited to a ball or a gala with some of these prominent figures. How are you going to behave? Look at the movie with Will Smith and Jaden Smith. There's a part where, you know, they're going to the football game, they're in the box seats. Like, that's a position of privilege and power. How are you going to behave in that situation? Imagine if Frank Garner, um, you know, behaved differently. How would it be different? Would he have the success that he had? What if he didn't humble himself to the owner of the 328 Ferrari and say, "What do you do for a living?" Like, that's a person that was enjoying the journey of coming up and viewed that as a motivation. Like, that was the highlight of his day. Oh my God, look at this Ferrari. He's trying to sell those bone density scanners. And he said, "Yo, you're so happy. Look at the smile on your face. What do you do? And what do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a stockbroker, you know, and these are the things you need. One, two, three. Pam, pam, pam. This is what you got to do." So I don't want to just give you guys that example based on the fact that this is a real time, real world example. And the list just goes on. And one thing I realized with my team is the fact that we've all navigated these uncharted waters and we all wound up on the same island. Like, yo, we're surrounded by God's people, good people, honest people, people with discipline that deserve to make billions of dollars with us. And there's nothing that can give me more happiness other than to do that with those people. I don't just want to win. I want to win with my company. I want to win with my team. And it's a scary thing because when somebody has never seen success, they may behave sporadically. They may have to go through these changes emotionally, psychologically, physically, everything, even spiritually, right? Mentally, right? But you cannot have true success without going through that. So, what can you do when somebody doesn't understand life and you write them a check for a few $1 million? They don't even know how to pay taxes. They don't even understand that you got to pay taxes. Imagine having an argument with somebody and saying, "Yo, here's a check for $1 million, but you got to send like half of that to the IRS. As a matter of fact, I can't even give you this other $500,000. I have to send this right now in your presence, sign right here. This is going straight to the IRS." People don't understand that. Even though on paper, yeah, you just made $1 million, but you paid half of that in taxes. People don't get it. It's like a business permit. It's mandatory. You cannot do business anywhere in the world without paying taxes. And you don't know what that person is feeling. You don't know what they're thinking. That person may feel jaded because, damn, I could have paid my taxes on my own, but they don't understand that if they don't pay those taxes, the IRS is coming after me. They're going into my bank accounts and taking out that $500,000 that you owe for your taxes, your responsibility. I could write them a check for $500 million if I make $1 billion. And these are examples. People will really have to balance out the fact that they have the potential to really have hatred for you, not really understanding that this is business because they only see, well, I just made $1 million. I paid half in taxes, but then the owner of the company paid it for me. Why did he? I could have done it on my own, right? They don't see that that's just the first million. What about when it's 10 million or 20 million or 30 million? Then what? Everything changes. I thank God that I had the business partners from the abyss because I went through all these headaches at the perfect time so that at this stage of my life, I don't have to worry about that because now When I go to the negotiating table, I already have all of that taken care of. Which leads me to our final example. I have a great opportunity to make somebody and a group of people very, very wealthy and powerful people. At the end of the day, I'm still a God fearing man. All I can do is pray. All I can do is rule number one. Today's day one, right? Rule number one is all I can use is everything that God has given me. As the days go by and the seconds take away the minutes and the minutes take away the hours and the hours take away the days and the weeks are passing, there's opportunities coming left and right and they're $1 billion opportunities. And I'm just watching the movie like, okay, let's set a clock timer, right? Let's see how much time it's going to take these people to understand that they're all decamillionaires right now. And whatever they decide to do right now is going to determine the rest of their life. And no matter if I give them all the answers, like all of my alumni, all of my students online, I cannot do the homework for you. I can't take the exam for you. I can't make you a good hearted person. I could give you the best internship. You want to work at Chevrolet? I got you. You want to work at Tesla? I got you. But it's up to you. You're on your own. I can get you the internship. I can get you the job. They'll guarantee you, a few semesters. What are you going to do after that? You're going to blame the economy. You're going to blame society. You're going to blame this, that, and the third when you're the person manning the battle stations every day. You're doing the hand to hand combat. If you're rubbing off the person in the mailroom wrong, the wrong way, and the person in the accounting department, and the person in marketing and promotion and publicity, and the person in distribution, and the person at legal, and the person at financing, and the executive board, what can I do for you? Another one bites the dust. What happened to this intern? What happened to this alumni? Oh, they got fired. But don't worry, we hired 20 more people to replace them. And they're all computer programmers. So they're having computers replace the computers that replace the people that replace the computers. And it's a never ending cycle because it's way cheaper to hire somebody and pay them whatever as long as they're excellent at what they do and they care about what they do. Because why not? You can make money with every other company and corporation, every other product or service. Why does it have to be with my company? Why does it have to be with me? Why do I need the headache? I have a granddaughter that's the owner of the company. That's my priority. That's my concern. I'm not concerned about nothing else. Just like the example of my exec, this person is worth right now no less than 14 or 15 million dollars. You know what it is to get married and know that when this deal goes through, this person's gonna get one check of $15 million after paying taxes. Dreams come true. How do you think I feel about the other execs that lost to her? I don't feel bad for them. They had way better positions, way more opportunity, way more chances. I gave them chances after chances after chances. I said, listen, if you cannot handle this portfolio, I'm not going to put it in your hands. I found the perfect person. Boom. And everything grew organically, naturally. Didn't have to force anything. This person listened. And it's still hard to talk to this person. Don't get me wrong. It's still hard to even speak to this person. But now this person is on easy street. This person knows I could look at anything anywhere, and if I want it, I can have it. If I want to do something, I could do it. If I want to just pick up and go, I can go. And if you know what, this person wants to walk away from business and technology and investments, this person is liquid. I didn't really expect this person to stay with the company for more than another 5, 6, 7 years. And this investment is about 72 months, give and take, about 6, 7 years. So either way, this person is going to be pensioned and retired, like cashed out. If this person wants to stay, she doesn't really have to. But it should serve as an example. She did more in 2 years than people did in 5 or 10 or 15. So how can you blame her? She deserves the right to talk all the shit that she wants. And of course, I want to support her because I know how hard this person had to work. And this person did not take it to heart that she started at the bottom, that she had to go through different eras, that she had to believe, that she had to pray. She went through up times and down times and mid times, and that's it. Some people just understand. Again, there's another exec that I'm just like, listen, all the boats have led back to this island. Now we're surrounded by good people, God's people. This is an opportunity. We've let time show us the reality of who's who and what's what in different circumstances. I can't feel bad if I had a colleague growing up, an old business partner that wanted a Ferrari F50 and never worked for it. I can't feel bad because I own a fleet of them. They're all for sale. I can't feel bad if my new exec deserves to have one of those cars. She's a owner in the portfolio. If she says, you know what, cash me out. I just want these two cars. I can't say no. I'm actually happy because we made a huge profit and this person made millions of dollars. That's a victory. That's a win. We did the right thing. Can my old business partners or colleagues ever say I never had the opportunity? That's what kills them right there. That's what hurts them the most. You had the chance. God gave it to you. You prayed. He put it in your hands. You wasn't ready. You destroyed it. Everything you build with your hands, you destroy with your feet. That's your fault. You can't blame nobody. You could write a book. You could tell the world whatever you want. But I know the truth. Everybody in my company knows the truth. So can you live with yourself, knowing that you blew it? You had a chance to work at Microsoft and Apple when the company first started. You had the opportunity to fucking be the next Jeff Bezos, the next Elon Musk, the next, you know, my boy from Virgin. Like you had the opportunity to have the new Berkshire Hathaway, yet you threw it away. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't feel bad for you. I had to learn the hard way, man. Especially when you're dealing with portfolios of this magnitude. Like, if you know your ass is ghetto, get your ass into a fucking university. Go to college. You need to. Be honest with yourself. No, I'm a ghetto ass motherfucking person. I need to go get educated. I can't wear my heart on my sleeve. I have to filter my thoughts. I have to behave and conduct myself professionally amongst the people. If I fuck up this portfolio, I'm fucking it up for the company. I'm fucking it up for every person. Every one of our kids wants to get ice cream and go to the park. They want to go to Disneyland. They also want to go to Disney World. They might want to go to Disneyland in fucking Asia or in Europe. That's what you're taking away from the entire company. And that's why it's a non negotiable. In conclusion, there's a new group of people spearheaded by a new exec that was just added to the company. Again, this person has done everything you could think about. And this person is a titan, man. This person's a juggernaut. And it's not about home runs because this person has hit many home runs. It's about the grand slam to win the World Series. This right now is the moment for this person to hit out the park. Championship, world renowned recognition, opportunities left and right. But the clock is ticking. Next few weeks, I'm going to go through a whole nother round. Venture capital firms, equity firms, private investors, uh, traditional financing. Like, I'm going to go through this whole shit again that I got to go through. Meanwhile, I've been putting music out every day, every day, every day, every day. If I'm not mistaken, we did a count today. I'm going to tell you how many songs we have for the year. With the new album, we have 741 songs in the market. My granddaughter is growing every single day, a little bit more. There's no time to waste. Today is July 3rd, tomorrow is July 4th. Some parts of the world, it's already July 4th. Life goes on. What are you going to do? What are you going to bring to the table? It's easy for me to say, yo, I need this. Can I please have this? Please give me this. That's easy to do. It's hard to say, yo, here's a value based proposition. This is what I put together. I put it on the table and you're a part of it. Would you like to set up the alley oop so I could come dunk it? Because if I dunk it, we win the championship. And if I get fouled, don't worry, because I'm going to come back with the rebound and dunk it. Then I'm going to shoot two or three threes in a row. And we got this. And we don't need that many seconds. And there's not that many seconds on the shot clock. Again, I no longer worry at this point in my life because I've learned that if it's not with these new execs, trust me, as close as I think I have the right team, and I leave it up to God's, judgment if these are the people, right? I think this is one of the best opportunities, if not the best I've had in my career. So I know that if these people drop the ball, the next team is the team. The challenge right now is for this team to close the deal. I even put it in the songs. I said, listen, until you guys have the deal on the table, don't waste my time. I got grandkids. There's nothing else to talk about. I leave you guys with that. I hope that you guys got great value. Please like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Um, we'll see you on the next one. You guys have the greatest teacher in the world. May you have an amazing day today. May you conquer everything that's in your path. May everything that you touch turn into solid gold bars and silver bars and beautiful and precious gemstones such as moissanite and laboratory grown diamonds. Always remember to dream big because dreams come true. It happened to me, and I know for a fact it's going to happen to you. For my alumni, work on your modules. For all of my students, for everybody that's tuning in, I hope that you get great value and that you learn certain aspects that you can bring into your personal and private life as well as your career. Because technology requires that you have an education. Because at the end of the day, this is the final frontier of business as far as humankind can grasp the concept of understanding. So dreams come true, you know, 5, 10, 15, 25, 35, 40, 50, 100 years from now, it will make sense. Maybe not today, So we'll continue to pray. We'll continue to negotiate. And always remember, my first deal is always my best deal, baby. I leave you guys with that. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. You're my daily inspiration. God bless. You guys have the best teacher in the whole world. I believe in you and you could do it. Push yourself because anything is possible. If anybody could do it, is you. And dreams come true. I know it happened to me, and for a fact, it's going to happen to you. God bless. And never forget to put God first in everything you do because God is the only path, baby. God wins, motherfuckers. Holla at your boy.